Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dynasty Wonderland podcast with me, the Mad Chatter Ryan MK, and of course, along with me, my guy, the March Heron, the salary captain. It's Aaron Stewart. What's up, buddy? How's it going?
Oh man, doing great here. Doing great. Survived Monday. We have
Yes,
Monday Night Football. Love
yes,
it. Can't complain, man. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good, and it was kind of a blah game a little bit. We'll get into the game here in a second, but I got to address a few things. Number one, we did not even preview the Monday night game on the pod last night. I
Whoops.
realized that as I was editing the pod. Then, speaking of that particular podcast, which you can check out, it's out right now. And that I got done. I had that shit ready to go this morning. And then for some reason, it's 20 minutes before kickoff. And I'm like, I don't think I fucking ever posted that on Twitter. And then I looked, and of course I did not. So I'm like, oh shit. And then I also have to address my whole Kenneth Gainwell in the infirmary. Like, I'm reading all this stuff on Twitter. Like, there was reports out that were talking about Jordan Howard, and I'm like, oh, where did I miss that? I pride myself on finding those little tidbits to help me give those kinds of little edges, and I didn't see any of that shit. And I don't know how I missed it, but I was literally like, this is Ken. I went so far, Aaron, my guy, in the infirmary report as to say that the Gainwell may not even give Miles Sanders his job back. That was a possibility, and and that was just based on kind of how the Eagles have treated Miles Sanders, not just Gainwell himself, but just the idea of how Sanders is kind of used. And yeah, I totally missed the boat on Boston Scott Jordan. Now I figured Boston Scott was going to get some work, but holy I did not see any of this coming. So I all I can say is, damn. Bear with us. We've had some rough spots. We're gonna get back on track. So I don't know what happened there, but that's my little rant on that. Is it because that Gamewell thing? Every time I thought about it, I was just like, how did I miss this stuff? Because I went strong on Gainwell, strong, Aaron. And
Well, you weren't
that was a
alone
bad
though.
one. Oh, I
And,
know, I know.
and you know what? I wouldn't beat yourself up too much about missing the Gainwell news because honestly, it seemed to be the consensus. A lot of people are going, "Where the heck was this little
Right.
tidbit here?" There was so I don't know, but Nick Sirianni just frustrating usage there because yes, it was logical. It's like, oh, Gainwell has been this guy, but it just seems that just unfortunately it's not that he's not even a handcuff running back. He isn't. It's just
Yeah.
he is Naheem Hines 2.0.
Right.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. It's you can have PPR relevant fantasy football seasons. But yeah, and Cody Carpentier had an excellent tweet like thread on the Eagles backfield, and just it was a mess. I really wouldn't get too upset about missing the Kenny Gainwell because it was weird. It was like
Yeah.
Gainwell had minimal usage on the ground until the fourth quarter when it was a blowout, and
Right.
so nothing on this makes sense at all.
Yeah.
It's just funny, really.
It is. It's a
they're
weird situation.
they're a mess.
I agree. Also a mess that now this is going to be interesting going forward because we've got a couple of big name injuries. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Jameis Winston. Now I know people are like, okay, what gives? It's not like he was spectacular for the Saints. Um, but Taysom Hill, you got him, you got Trevor Simeon. I mean, they did just take out the Bucks with Simeon in half the game. So, we'll see what it's like going forward. But I'm getting it. personally, I'm having a hard time getting a grip on this Saints team. I mean, some
Yeah.
weeks they can look really impressive, some weeks not. I mean, and their defense, I mean, they can play really legit at times, but then at times it's like, what the hell are they doing? I do love Demario. Every time I see the Saints on defense, and I mean, I'm just more and more of a fan this year. I don't know what it is, but sometimes I see guys play in a given year, and I just start to really latch on. And I'm on the defensive side of the ball. I'm loving this dude this year. He's fun to watch fly around. But anyway, I'm having a hard time getting a feel for this team. But now, no Jameis Winston. Not that he was spectacular, and it doesn't sound like they have any plans on going after a Cam Newton or anybody. So we're gonna have Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian. It would appear. Um, I don't know, man. What do you think about this team overall? Is it going to be that much of a step down from Winston to a Taysom Trevor Simeon combo? I mean, what are your thoughts on this before we get into the other big name?
Well, and to answer the first question of is it a big step down? Naturally, yes, because with Winston, is he one of the good quarterbacks? No, but he's been a long time starting quarterback. Whereas Trevor Simeon has bounced around the league. I want to say he was in Minnesota and had a quick stint in Denver, if I'm not mistaken. I may be off on that one. Maybe I'm thinking.
I think he was drafted by Denver, and
he
did play. Denver. He did play a little bit in Denver, and then he went somewhere else.
I'm about to pull this up real quick just to give the listeners because our casual fantasy football people, they have probably never heard of Simeon. And you know what? That's fair. That is fair on that. Ooh, man, that screen is bright. Oh no.
I'm blind you, my friend.
Little technical difficulties. We're going to fix that. Oh, it's only on 10. I don't know. Okay, so he has played 10 out of 100 here. So there's like nothing on Simeon. There we go. So it was Denver. I don't know why I thought he played in Minnesota. Maybe it was like preseason. He was on the Jets.
Yeah.
He was on the Jets. Wow, I didn't realize how many starts he had because in Denver from 2016 and 2017.
Yeah, he played a good amount in Denver.
Yeah, I'd completely forgotten. He had started 24 of the 32 games. And, man, I don't have the source, but I remember reading, there was someone that was talking about how Denver was super high on this guy. Like they were they saw like I guess it'd be for like my Cowboys, what we have with Tony Romo, where Romo, like 4 or 5 years, was the developmental guy. And then he got his chance and then had a really good career. So Trevor Siemian was kind of viewed as that for Denver. And, there really isn't any information. I'm looking on Player Profiler, just nothing on this guy. But it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess because Taysom Hill is going to be involved. What do they even do? I mean, is Taysom Hill going to be the starter, but he's injured? Yeah.
I don't know.
Hurt.
I think their best bet is just to roll Simeon and see what he can do. I don't think Taysom Hill can do enough as the starter personally, but I don't know. It'll be interesting to see going forward, but it is crazy because they're in this great position, but it's just like we really don't know what this team is. Very weird. It's just
super weird, but you know what? I'm through doubting the Saints.
That's true.
I think I was in the majority. I'm really going to work on being better at that, to be a little contrarian and kind of maybe fight against some of this stuff too, because we all thought the Saints were just done before the season even started. We just done early in the season, even when they were racking up some wins. We're like, they're not going to go far. But they're 5-2, just coming off a win against the defending Super Bowl champs. They're just half a game behind them in the division. You know what? The Saints have been scratching and clawing their way through this season up the standings. I'm not going to doubt them. Maybe Trevor Siemian can play well enough. This isn't a Saints team that has been relying on the passing offense to begin with. And they really haven't been. I mean, how many yards does their leading receiver have? Like outside of Alvin Kamara, I mean, would it be? It's got to be Marquez Callaway. And how many yards does he have? Let's see.
Right.
Real quick. Let's pull up their stats on the season. They've played 7 games, and their leading receiver, that's not Kamara, because it's got to be Kamara, it's actually not Kamara. It is Marquez Callaway with a whopping 284. 284. Let's put that through a 17-game season. I know this is supposed to be our quick pod.
Right.
That means Marquez Callaway, their leading receiver, is on pace for 690 passing yards on a 17-game season. So clearly the big takeaway, I mean, Cooper Kupp's already passed that.
Right.
This is a team that does not rely on passing. So
right.
Quarterback injuries, your starting quarterback going down is bad news no matter what.
But not worst case.
Yeah, the Saints may be the one and only team that can get away with that. That'll be interesting. This is Simeon's time.
And then the other big name is King Henry. Now, this is, a bummer for a lot of people.
Wait, Kenyon Drake?
Huh?
Did you say Kenyon Drake?
I said King Henry.
Oh, I was like, in my mind, I was like, that's not the right Alabama.
No. I don't think much of Kenyon Drake, to be honest. I don't think about him often. No, King Henry, Derrick Henry. Yes. He's undergoing foot surgery and likely out through the rest of the season. Now, 2 things about this. One, I'm not saying the foot is related to how much he's been running or anything like that, but it's just one way or another. I could not expect this dude to just keep going as he was going. And it just it's crazy that it took this long for something to happen. And because he's a freak, but man, he has just been piling up those touches. And it just felt like, man, this just can't keep going. And it hasn't. This is the end, probably, for the year. They say there's a chance he could come back this year. We'll see. It's a bummer, but it's also just a reminder, just that position, man. It is what it is. Dudes can only go for so long at this position. They just, it's so violent. And then my other aspect of this, my second thing to this, and then I'll let you say what you would like, and then we can get into the Monday night game. But I was kind of like, the fucking Titans are locked up now. The Colts are done for all of day. I'm opening the door again for the Colts just because. And, Carson Wentz played, made some piss poor decisions yesterday. No excuses for. And, that could definitely take your belief away from the Colts. But overall, they played a good game and were very close to winning. Should have won. And now you look at this Tennessee team who was rolling, beating some of the top teams. I am sorry. I like Jeremy McNichols. And I, at one point, enjoyed watching Adrian Peterson play. And because that's, of course, who they signed. The Titans have signed Adrian Peterson. And I'm sure he'll be fine. But here's the thing. What do you think is going to happen to that Tennessee passing offense when defenses don't have to key in on Derrick Henry? Do you think old-ass Adrian Peterson, Jeremy McNichols, do you think any of those dudes left on the roster are going to put fear into a defense? No, not even close to the way King Henry did. So now you're talking about an offense that could potentially be in a lot of trouble, man, if you ask me, just looking at it from that perspective, because I don't care who they put. They're not Derrick Henry, not even going to be close. And that's going to put a lot more pressure on the passing offense. And I just don't know if that's the formula Tennessee wants to roll with. So overall, I'm concerned about the Titans offense, to be honest.
Yeah, and the thing I want to start with Derrick Henry is, man, the guy really is just superhuman, an
He's amazing.
alien, whatever you want to say
Amazing.
about him. Because before this injury, he's only missed one game due
Right.
to injury. And that is very impressive because, as you pointed out, just massive, massive workloads. And that's been one of the things that we go, you know what? At some point, you just have to go. He's 6'3, he's 250 pounds, he's a unicorn. He really is. But the one kryptonite for running backs, especially running backs that are bigger,
Mm-hmm.
that have a lot of BMI, is those foot injuries are
Right.
scary.
Mm.
Now, this specific one, it's not a common one, but it's called a Jones fracture. I can think of two cases off the top of my head.
Yeah, I was trying to get to the specifics of what the foot injury is, so I'm glad you got this. Okay, Jones fracture.
Right.
I'm
Because
somewhat familiar.
yes, because there's actually a player. His teammate Julio Jones had a Jones fracture, and the other player I'm thinking of is Julian Edelman that
Mm.
also had a Jones fracture. Now, these players were able to come back and have extremely productive seasons with it. For people that aren't familiar with Jones fracture, in its simplicity, it's basically a fracture of your pinky toe bone. And the problem is, he could come back this season.
Mm.
He could. The reason why he may not is you run the risk of re-injuring of messing up the fracture, because like they will have to have a screw. What they'll do is they'll put a screw in that bone.
Mm.
And if you mess that up, like that's when like you're going to be out for an even longer time. So
Right.
usually teams are pretty conservative. So I think they gave the 6 to 10 timeline, not quite the Colts 5 to 12 weeks, but the 6 to 10 weeks. I wouldn't hold out hope for Derrick Henry playing this season, because you can't risk it. You can't. And I know this stinks because the Titans have beaten the Chiefs, they've beaten the Bills, they've got some good wins, got a great resume. But Henry, it's not that he's done. He's 27 years old. So that's another reason why they're not going to run him. They're not going to rush him back.
Right.
A pun there for running backs. But oh yeah, that backfield does become a mess because it was so pivotal to have Henry that it was absurd. He realistically was always getting like 30 carries, or if he wasn't, it was like he could. None of these running backs are going to approach that. And it's such a run heavy team. But
right.
The issue becomes these guys aren't Henry. I know, shocking. And what I mean by that is Henry could get away with a heavy workload on the ground and not do much through receiving. This was his best pass catching season, to give him credit on that, but he was no Kamara. Like it was all on the ground, but he could score multiple touchdowns, and because he was getting 25 to 30 carries, like that allowed him to be one of the most productive fantasy football running backs this season.
Right.
That's not going to be Adrian Peterson. Like Peterson can't handle 25 carries. Like it's going to be the Peterson special. We're probably going to see him get 10 to 12 carries, and some weeks maybe up to 15 because he's on Tennessee. McNichols is going to be involved. I don't know. It's going to be so weird. I guess the best thing, if people want to know what the Titans may do, think of Derrick Henry when Dion Lewis was there that first season, and they had this kind of like 60 to 40 split of the snap shares. Like that's how I would guess that it would be, because also they had Darrington Evans. Would have been great. Right. Would have been great for the guy that they drafted in the 3rd round last year. But of course, he got hurt like the week prior, and he was put on IR. So it's got to be those two running backs, right? Am I missing anyone else in this backfield? I mean, McNichols, I know it had the 1 week that, oh, what was it? They were missing all their receivers, and it was McNichols that like led the team. So it'll be
I've
interesting.
always been on the McNichols bandwagon with
Yeah.
Podfather, but again, he's not Derrick. I just feel like, you know what else Derrick Henry does? He makes up for bad O-line play, and I don't think these other dudes are like. I just see this being a major issue, and
Right.
I remember during the off season, the Podfather talked a lot about how this could be a more pass-oriented team because of the lesser offensive line, and Derrick Henry, he's getting up there, and like they added Julio Jones. They're telling you they're going to throw more, but that hasn't been the case. They're just still using the shit out of Derrick Henry, but now he's hurt, and that's because I don't think they can be Julio's not out there, and he hasn't been out there a lot, and so you need him for sure. But even then, I mean, how do you keep that same threat of the run to help your passing game when you take away someone like Derrick Henry? Like, it's just
Right.
And like I said, I'm sorry, that sound is this damn water bottle keeps crack-a-lacking. Anyway, I like McNichols, and AP's AP once upon a time, great, but they're just I think this is going to be bad news, but we'll see how it goes, as we always do, my friend.
Right. Man, an identity crisis. So funny how the two teams we talked about with major injuries, with the Saints, we both agree, we're like, losing a starting quarterback sucks, but this is the one team that can overcome it. And then we go to the Titans and we go, losing Derrick Henry sucks, and this is probably the one team that can't overcome this.
Well, that's because I do feel like, you lose Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, of course, D'Ernest Johnson. I think this is a completely different story. Derrick Henry is a different animal. What he means to that offense, I think this is going to be trouble. But again, we'll find out. We'll see. Maybe they'll be able to keep it together. So, but now we finally get to the Monday night game. I really don't have that much to say about this other than, the Chiefs scraped out a win, but I just, it doesn't even feel like, I don't know what's going on with him. Mahomes doesn't feel the same. I don't know if he's still banged up. I've heard lots of stuff on radio pertaining to just bad habits he developed last year, all sorts of things, but it's weird. And I just feel like this is not, a superior fantasy offense that you can rely on, one of those prime offenses, because Tyreek Hill, okay, he killed it for you, 12, 94, and 1. But Travis Kelce didn't do much, 4 for 27. They've struggled to find a second receiver. The running backs, Derek Gore, 48 yards and a touchdown. This is just, it's ugly. It's so ugly. And, when the whole Marlon Mack trade rumors thing, I was hoping something would happen with him. And, there's still time. We got till tomorrow at whatever time it is. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's usually like 4:00 Eastern or something like that. But
I think so. That sounds about right.
But so still something that could happen with Marlon Mack. I pray he does not go to the Chiefs. Go somewhere where you can actually, because this is starting to get gross, man. I don't. It stinks. It stinks. Like, what the hell is going on here? This has been a weird season, man. There's been some weird things going on, and the Chiefs' issues are definitely one of them. Because the Giants weren't that far away from winning this game. It's just crazy. It's crazy.
That was the concern, because here is your random fact of the game, is that with the Chiefs, they did win, but they were far, far away from covering. It was a ridiculous 10.5-point spread, which I questioned big time. Yes, there should be a massive talent gap, but the Chiefs have not played well this season. That 4-4 record is just perfect for what the Chiefs have been this season. Uber talented team that's constantly losing games.
Right.
Yin yang. But here's my stat here. The Chiefs against the spread this season, goose egg, big old goose egg, they are 0-8 against the spread. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that tell us? Is that the Chiefs, despite winning half their games, they are not living up to expectations. Like Vegas is losing their dang minds on this. But even it gets worse. The past 4 games that the Chiefs have been a double-digit home favorite, they're 0-4. Like they seemingly play to the level of their competition. The only difference is when they're going against the good teams this season, they're not even able to hold up because, of course, the defense can't do anything. And then the offense, depending on the turnovers, I see an interception from Mahomes.
Yep.
I see
Kelsey fumble. Like the Chiefs should still be leading the league in turnovers. I'm pretty certain that it's something ridiculous. If they're not leading the league, it's like where their turnovers have just been absolute killer. Let me actually. Patrick Mahomes lost a fumble as well, so he had 2 total turnovers. Sorry.
Let's see. I actually want to pull that up real quick. Let's see. NFL team fumbles per game. I'm pretty certain they are the leader. Sorry, that's not a stat I had prepared before, but let's see.
Maybe Kelsey didn't fumble. I thought in the game they said Kelsey fumbled. Maybe it was Mahomes.
So I was.
Oh no, Kelsey did fumble. I remember seeing him fumble.
I was technically wrong here. Technically, well, and it may change, but the Chiefs are the number 2 team in terms of fumbles.
Who's number 1?
Cardinals.
Really?
I'm surprised by that one. But it says here that they average 1.9 per game. I'd have to go back and check, but I'm going to trust the stats that I got there from this random website. So not the best source. But yeah, this man is rough because Chiefs offense didn't even look good. I mean, if you told me Mahomes dropped back for 48 pass attempts and he came up with less than 300 yards.
Right.
Any other season,
touchdown.
And only one touchdown. Any other season, I would have laughed at you. And then there was, as you already pointed out, the weird Derek Gore thing. Where the heck did this guy come from? I mean, he's been on their practice squad like all season, and all of a sudden you're playing him over the guy that had been your clear number 2 guy that's filling in for Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Super weird. Holy moly, Tyreek Hill, 12 catches, but nothing really. The weird thing is Travis Kelce having a very quiet game, just hasn't really tight end position this year. You think about it. Kelsey's been seemingly quiet the last few weeks. I don't remember any big Kelce games. Darren Waller, the massive, what was it, 19 targets in week 1?
Yeah. He's been
nothing even coming.
George Kittle's been hurt.
Yeah, Kittle's been hurt.
Hawkinson was on fire at the beginning, but now he's kind of died down a little too.
Yeah, but he was at least heavily involved in the last game. Tight end's been super weird this year. On the Giants side, oh man, you know what is an absolute killer? I was banging the drum for Kadarius Toney. I thought, man, this is a great matchup.
Right, 4 for 26.
And it was so many just gut punches here because first off, at the start of the game, when they had a semi-healthy receiving core, John Ross was running more routes than Kadarius Toney. It's oh my goodness. So I don't know. Maybe I should have been banging the drum for this guy. I should have been let's let him play a game.
Right.
And then, because I'm sure it was probably the game plan is you're going to be out there, but you're going to be more of a decoy. You're not 100%. That's on me. Usually I pay more attention to that stuff and I'll be more cautious. I did that with Antonio Gibson. It's I benched him this week because I was I want to just kind of see him play, and I would be okay if he had 120 yards. and 3 touchdowns and be like, which he clearly didn't, but
Right.
would have been okay. Then, of course, Sterling Shepard got hurt
Yeah.
again. And I was like, cool, Tony time. And then Tony got hurt. So just multiple gut punches, a roller coaster of lows and highs. I say
Right.
it that way because it started off with lows.
Right.
John Ross was the leading receiver, and Devontae Booker was number 2.
It's the Giants, man. I don't even know what to say about them anymore.
And you know what's sad is,
It is
no
what
Galladay,
it is.
no Galladay, no Barkley. Ross and Booker are your leading receivers. No one else exceeded 30 receiving yards on the ground.
The Chiefs are lucky Barkley wasn't playing. They probably would have
Right.
lost that fucking game.
Right, because the Chiefs only won by 3 points at home.
Right.
And it's,
That's what I'm saying. The
It don't
Giants are not
happen.
good. They're injured to shit.
oh. And how is it that Daniel Jones, to his credit, Daniel Jones is having his best season, right? Like Daniel Jones, who hasn't been good at all in his career. And then you go, oh, yeah, we're going to take away all of your receiving weapons. Oh, Galladay, your big money, $16 million per year. Yeah. He's out of here. Like he, in terms of injuries. And then, of course, Barkley coming back from ACL, finally back from ACL. Oh, no, sprained ankle. Yeah. Still not concerned about that long term. That was low ankle sprain. It's just that one clip where they caught his ankle there, swollen up so much, and people are like, oh my gosh, it's not normal. Duh, it's not normal, but like that's what happens when you sprain your ankle. There's inflammation, there's swelling. And then missing Shepard, he started off the season so well, and then multiple injuries. And even going deeper, like Darius Slayton he's just a guy, but like when you're losing your 3rd, 4th receivers, how the heck has Daniel Jones been able to have the impact that he's had? Because it wasn't on the ground. Like his game was, for his standards, I thought was solid to complete 2/3 of his passes, a couple of touchdowns, to only have 1 turnover, because that was a big thing. It was like, what, last season? What was it? He had an ungodly amount of fumbles.
Yep. That's been his biggest thing, is the turnovers. But
yeah. But and you know, I know we wanted to see more from Jones, because it's like this Chiefs defense can't do anything. When you don't have any receivers, I mean, what, John Ross has to be their number 5 receiver? When you think about it, like Galladay, Shepard, Slayton, Tony, like John Ross is number 5, like, and that's who you had to rely on.
I feel for him because it feels like he's probably going to end up not getting a real fair shake at things. And not that I think he could be something spectacular, but there's a little bit of that Josh Allen, because Daniel Jones isn't a small dude, and he can use his fucking legs. And, he does have some issues that if he got cleaned up and talent was put around him, hey, he probably looks pretty good. And, I think this was the season that people really wanted to see something out of him. But again, I mean, what the hell else could you do? I mean, dudes can only do so much. I mean, so I don't know, kind of a wacky game. Both those teams not looking the greatest. And I was just sitting here. I just saw the Jameis Winston injury, and I flashed across the screen on my TV, and I forgot one point. Enough with the horse collar shit, because that's what happened to that dude. And that's how he got the injury. And you could see how bummed he is on that cart being taken away. But then I got to give him props, because it's been said, but Jameis Winston is a national treasure. I love this man. He makes me laugh. He makes me smile. He finds a way to stay positive. This dude fucked up his knee. He's done, and hey, he's trying to make and bring his career back this year. So this
Right.
had to be devastating, but the Saints got the win, and Jameis was in the locker room bouncing around on one knee, holding crutches, just dancing, having a great time. Like, I love this dude's vibe, energy, effort. I mean, for him to just, because as soon as I saw on the TV his face of him on the stretcher, like so bummed out, my mind immediately went to, you're good, Jameis. You know why you're good? I know you're good because I saw you in that after game party video and you was getting down with your crutches in the air and everything, bro. So I know you's good, and I appreciate the positive energy. Love me some Jameis Winston. I hope he gets better. I'd like to see him back in football. I'd like to see him on a team somewhere. So I had to throw out some more Jameis love right there. But
And it is super unfortunate because it has been coming into this game. What was it? 11, 13 TDs to 3 interceptions, and this may be, there's a silver lining in all this. It's more of a silver lining for the New Orleans Saints front offices. You're probably going to bring Winston back. It's a torn ACL, and it's even worse because, as you pointed out, it was from a horse collar tackle. The ACL injuries, most are non-contact.
Right. This one was contact for sure. You can motion. See shit go the wrong way.
And there was other ligaments.
Right.
Yeah, there was other ligaments that were torn, and that becomes the problem. Because
and this is halfway through the year.
Halfway through the season. Yeah.
It's going to be tough.
I don't know if we see Jameis Winston play next season.
Right.
We still have to, of course, wait on full confirmation, but I was seeing like MCL. And when I think about ACL is already bad enough, but because it was a forced ACL tear, like I mentioned, they're usually non-contact. Nothing, players got touched at all. It's just, and especially those running backs or receivers trying to juke someone, it's that cutting motion. That's what tears the ligament there. But for there to be other ligaments involved too, it's like, oh no.
Bad news. Yep.
Bad news. I mean, we saw it with Barkley. I want to say Barkley was a similar type of ACL injury where there was more ligaments torn. And, it took him, he was able to play in week 1. He was able to come back a full year later, but in the first couple of games was looking not good, which was expected. All the injury analysis people out there were saying it was going to take some time. It's probably the case with Winston. You go, man, if he misses, he isn't going to be ready until midseason. I mean, PUP next season, physically unable to perform less.
For sure.
So maybe the Saints get a bargain with him because he was clearly playing well there, at least doing his job of not turning over the ball, keeping the chains moving there. It was great.
Yeah. It wasn't overly exciting or, doing anything super special, but he was what they needed. And I think, hopefully they can bring him back, and hopefully it's not the end for him, but I think that's certainly possible at this point. So, but all right, before we get out of here, Thursday Night Football. When I originally thought of this game, it was like, meh, but it's a little spicy now. Because you got the Jets who just beat, the team with the best record in the AFC at one point. The Bengals were technically, the 1 seed there for a minute, right? That's pretty fucking interesting. So taken out by the Jets, though. And so you're like, okay, the Jets, they've taken out the Titans, the Bengals. Maybe this Mike White, maybe they get a little spicy here, okay? And then you got the Colts, who you're thinking, they're fucking dead in the water. Carson Wentz, you chump. You made a couple of terribles. I shouldn't maybe say chump, but come on, man. That one in the end zone where he just flicks at the fuck. Like, that's one. I feel like even I would know not to do that if I was in his shoes. And that's like, because you could see if you watch that play, he's going to throw it to the ground where his tight end's at. and just get out of the play. And then somewhere in his brain, he said, no, it's okay. Even though I'm in the end zone, I'm still going to try and make something happen. And then he realized, oh no, I'm about to get a safety. And then he tried to throw it away again, and things went bad. And I'm just like, you know, you take those mistakes away, and I'm like, fucking great game, Carson Wentz. So it's like there's still some hope for the Colts now, especially with the Derrick Henry news. In my opinion, like I said, this doesn't necessarily guarantee Tennessee the division anymore, because I think this is going to make their road a lot tougher.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think this game becomes a little spicier. Indy still got something to play for. The Jets, interesting. And now the Colts lose this one, they're fucking toast for sure. But if they can take out the Jets, we'll see what happens with Tennessee going forward. But maybe they make some noise. The only thing is T.Y. Hilton out tomorrow. So and the Jets playing pretty well against the pass. So you got to wonder what's going to happen. Is Michael Pittman going to be able to have another big game? I bet you there'll be a lot of Jonathan Taylor. So make sure, he's in your lineups. But I don't know. Other than that, what are your thoughts on the game? I think this could be an interesting one.
It'll be interesting. And I have to go with the Colts. Not exactly a bold take, because it's like the Colts are the only team in this game that they're actually truthfully playing for something.
Yeah. Well, and I think they're a good team. I think they're actually a good team. I just think Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz. That's part of the issue. But I think the Colts being healthy, like they've got some weapons on offense. They've got a solid defense. So I think they're a good team. They just, is what it is. Sorry to interrupt.
Oh, no. And it will be, man. I mean, not that the Jets are really in it at 2-5, but it's the team that loses this game. I mean, if the Jets pull off another major upset, right now the Colts are a 10.5-point favorite. It's a home game, so neutral field side. They're saying the Colts are a touchdown better than the Jets, and I would agree. But, weird things can happen on this one. I don't think Jets are going to get back-to-back wins.
I don't think so either. But Mike White does seem to have spiced them up a little bit. So I'm interested to see what happens. But hopefully the Colts can take this one, because, can you imagine if they would have won that game the other night before this Henry injury? I mean, they would be sitting in a prime spot. But
they really would. And on top of that, it's not just the Jets. It's that the Colts schedule really does lighten up. And it starts with the Jets, but I'm pulling up the Colts schedule as we speak. And you're right. Like, that's why it was such a squandered opportunity. It was so weird, so bad.
But that's the Colts. That feels like them this year, is that, hey, they're pretty good and they could be right there, but Carson Wentz.
Right. Because maybe the schedule doesn't totally open up, but you have back-to-back home games against the Jets, which it's a short week, but the Jets are traveling. And then your next home game is the following week against the Jaguars, where in that game, you're going to have, 10 days between games because you played on Thursday on a short week. So you're going to have even more time to prepare for the Jaguars, who are traveling to your home stadium. It's like, chalk those up as 2 wins. You get a extremely difficult matchup on the road at Buffalo, coming back home against Tampa Bay. It's like, maybe they pull off one of those games. Like, it's just crazy. They won a couple of games going into the Tennessee game. They were in control early. They were doing so well. It's like, if they win that game and they're on a 3-game win streak, then they beat the Jets and the Jaguars 5-game win streak. Okay, maybe, you're gonna drop one of the two between the Bills and in Tampa Bay, but maybe you win one of those. It's like, you won 6 of your next 7, you're in it, just in time to go on the road against Houston, which Houston is just bellied up.
Right.
Like, they could have turned it around, and then at the same time you go, I guess they They
could. I mean, listen, hey, Tennessee's
Weird
schedule.
things.
They got to
Weird
play
things
at the
happen.
Rams.
Yeah.
Then they have the Saints. They do have Houston the week after that, and they have Houston in week 18, and then they play Jacksonville somewhere in the middle. But the Rams, the Saints, they also got to play the Patriots, the Steelers, the 49ers, the Dolphins. So they don't have a very easy road ahead. And that could be, again, rough without some Derrick Henry. So it's,
Right.
I think there's still a little spark of some chaos there in the AFC South. I think there's still a little spark of it.
I'm hoping because it's got to make things interesting because, Jaguars, Texans, they ain't doing it. There's no chance. So that game, I know I've already nagged about it so many times, but that loss is just so bad in terms of for people that aren't Titans fans. For Colts fans, they're just NFL fans who want to see competitive football. It's
right.
That loss. When I saw that score, I was so upset. Of course, the Colts have been one of these teams that I secretly, well, not even so secretly, root for and enjoy.
I really liked them last year with Phillip Rivers. Yeah. Like I was, I was admittedly never a Wentz fan, but I was ready to see how it goes. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens because I liked what you guys did last year with Phillip Rivers, and the good from Wentz has been good, but like you saw last night, that's a game you can't lose, and for him to do something like that just goes, oh good God, like it doesn't matter how much good you do if you go and do something like that after. Oh my goodness, I'm telling you, if you see that play just over and over. It's just awful. But hey, it could be an interesting race still. We'll have to see. All right. Well, our shortest pod of the week may have just turned into our longest pod of the week.
But it was good. It was good conversation.
We had a lot of good shit to talk about. So it provided a little more than we normally do on Monday, which is not a bad thing. So with that being said, we're going to get the hell out of here. Mr. Aaron Salary Caption, do you have any final thoughts, my friend?
This is where I get to plug everything. So if you listen to this podcast or you watch this video on YouTube, make sure to give us a like, a subscribe. Any type of feedback is good feedback. The more that you guys tell us what you like, what you don't like, the other people are going to find the show. We got good product here. Make sure, of course, that you follow the podcast on Twitter at DW_pod. And follow me on Twitter. It's a very simple one. It's at AAronStew09. And then Ryan, go ahead. Give us your Twitter handle. Where can we find you?
RMK Madness. Follow me on the Twitters. Admittedly, I don't do a ton of posting lately, but I'm going to get back to it. And you can also check out my other non-sports podcast, the Miscellaneous Debris podcast. Same place you find this one. I'm actually getting ready to record that after this shits. And for that stuff, my comedy shit, follow me on the Instagram. Same thing at RMK Madness. And I think that's all we got. And we're going to head out of here. Whew. Good week. Hey, after next week, we're going to be halfway through the season, Aaron. It's getting there, man. It's flying.
It's weird that week 9.
I know.
Week 9 is the midpoint?
I know. It's crazy. It's chaos. I love it. It's madness, some might say. All right, everyone. Until next time, stay safe, stay vigilant, stay mad, and we'll chat again soon. Ta-ta now. The captain and the chatter. Peace out.